Crispy Bacon here with what I believe will be the strongest, most sought after exotic in Shadowkeep, sealed Ahamkara Grasps. These hunter gauntlets can be obtained from any exotic drop source in the game and have actually been around since the Warmind DLC. For those who aren't sure what these gauntlets do, their exotic perk is called Nightmare Fuel. Dealing melee damage reloads your currently equipped weapon. Now, this perk works off of standard melee strikes, but more notably, it also functions when using ranged melee abilities, such as throwing knives on Gunslinger and smoke bombs on Nightstalker. These gauntlets will proc a reload off of each type of throwing knife and each type of smoke bomb from the various perk trees available to these subclasses, but with that said, it's the middle tree of each subclass where things get a bit interesting. With the Way of a Thousand Cuts Gunslinger subclass, also known as the Blade Barrage perk tree, each of the 3 throwing knives leaves a burning damage over time effect. Interestingly enough, each of these ticks of burn damage counts as a reload, meaning that while our target is burning from our throwing knives, our weapon is automatically reloaded multiple times, in my testing effectively 6 times total, including the initial knife hit. The other 2 Gunslinger classes were not as effective, only counting the initial hit of the throwing knife as expected. Now, with the Way of the Wraith Nightstalker subclass, also known as the Spectral Blades perk tree, each tick of smoke grenade damage counts as a melee attack, which in this case causes our weapons to reload with each tick of smoke damage. In my testing, this could effectively reload my weapon around 8 times during its full duration. The other 2 Nightstalker subclasses were not as effective, only counting the single initial hit of the smoke grenade as a reload. So there are a few topics I want to talk about here. 1, why is this relevant now? 2, which subclass is the optimal way to use this exotic? And 3, what are my thoughts on this exotic's effect on the game? So this item has been around for a while, and it hasn't changed, so why is it important now? Well, currently in Destiny 2, there are 2 well-known strategies that avoid having to reload your weapons, thus increasing your damage per second significantly. Those are the Titan's Rally Barricade, as well as Warlock Rifts and Well of Radiance with the exotic Lunafaction Boots exotic equipped. In most high-level activities and boss encounters, these combinations are considered a necessity by most, as these set up a team for incredible amounts of damage with their heavy weapons. This has been the case in Destiny PvE content for a long time now, and Bungie is finally switching up the rules. After the launch of Shadowkeep on October 1st, Titan Rally Barricades and Warlock Lunafaction Wells and Rifts will no longer instantly reload your weapons from reserves. Instead, they will simply increase reload speed. At the moment, we're not quite sure how fast these reload speeds will be, but regardless, it will be taking away precious time with which teams now need to reload, instead of continuing their damage cycles unbothered. This is why sealed Ahamkara Grasps will be such a big deal. They will now be one of the only exotics in the game that can help instantly reload your weapons, meaning that they will be a top-tier choice for hunters in bossing and raid encounters. Teams of hunters will be able to throw a throwing knife or a smoke grenade at a boss and effectively negate Bungie's removal of these other auto-reloading setups. So if you were to be one of these hunters on one of these raid teams, which subclass is the ideal choice? Well, there are a few things to take into account here. From my testing, a smoke bomb from our mid-tree Nightstalker will actually provide a longer duration of auto-reloads than that of the mid-tree Gunslinger's throwing knife. You might think that would close the case, but not quite. Gunslinger actually has an extra perk working in its favor, that being the Burning Edge perk. This makes it so that while your enemy burns from a throwing knife's damage over time, your dodge ability recharges faster. This is extremely useful when used with Gambler's Dodge, because dodging near an enemy will then instantly refresh your melee cooldown, allowing you to immediately throw more knives. This allows a gunslinger to chain together instant reloads almost indefinitely, as these burn ticks return most of, if not the entirety of your dodge ability. On the other hand, mid-tree Nightstalker has access to the perk known as Shattering Strike, which can be used to weaken enemies, similar to Hammer Strike on Sunbreaker Titan, Tractor Cannon's debuff, or the effect of a Tether Super. Although only tangentially related to instant reloads, this ability is very beneficial in raid encounters where debuffing high health targets is important. So which one is better? It's an extremely tough decision, and part of it comes down to team composition and playstyle. That being said, I believe mid-tree Gunslinger should be used when extremely long damage phases are expected, or when there are multiple, shorter phases in quick succession. Mid-tree Nightstalker should then be used when there are short to medium length damage phases with breaks in between, or when the Shattering Strike debuff roll is needed. Just remember that after instant reloads stop activating from your fire or your smoke damage, make sure to roll with Gambler's Dodge while near an enemy to get another chain of Ahamkara Grasps reloads instantly. So all that being said, I have some opinions on this exotic and Bungie's attempted removal of instant reloads. I think that the nerf to Rally Barricade and Lunafaction boots was necessary. We are too powerful as Guardians, and our ability to one-cycle raid bosses has led to raid encounters feeling a bit trivial in Destiny 2. It's great to feel powerful, don't get me wrong, but when there is one strategy of play that absolutely dominates the PvE sandbox, and that strategy allows players to completely skip intended mechanics of a raid, that is just a bit too much. With that in mind, I believe that sealed Ahamkara Grasps deserved a similar treatment, as I now believe they will dominate the PvE and raid meta. The most important thing to me in a game is variety, wherein players are given a bit of freedom when it comes to choosing the optimal gear setup for a given piece of content. If anything, I think that these gauntlets should be nerfed so that the damage over time effects do not count as melee hits for the sake of balance. But hey, that's just one guy's opinions. I wanted to say thank you guys so much for watching the video. I really appreciate the continued support, and if you want to continue that support, feel free to join up on the Discord or follow me on Twitch. We'd love to have you on either of those platforms. But again, thank you guys so much for watching, and have a good one.
We thank you, Guardian, and we will never forget.